Today we are looking at unit number 4 of energy and change, and unit number 4 covers insulation and saving energy. So this is on page 257 of your textbook, insulation and saving energy. It is divided into 4 subsections. 1, it's gain and loss of heat. 2 is insulating material. 3, saving of electrical energy. Number 3, application or uses of insulation. So we use them in 3 areas: the everyday uses, and the indigenous technology, which means it's the old and traditional technology, and where do we use it in nature. Okay. They say here, why do we put on warm jackets in winter to protect us from the cold? Why do we not normally wear woolly clothes in summer? In some cases, we want to prevent heat from being transferred. Therefore, we wore warm coats and jackets in cold weather. These types of clothing prevent body heat from escaping to the environment as the transfer of cold weather temperatures to our bodies. As well as the transfer of cold weather temperature to our bodies. Okay. Let's read this and understand. They say this type of clothing, the ones that we wear in winter, warm coats and jackets, they prevent body heat from escaping to the environment. Remember, we said heat can be transferred from warm objects to cold objects. So we are naturally warm. So we don't want our body heat to escape from us to the environment, because the environment is cold in winter, as well as the transfer of cold weather temperature to our bodies. In other cases, it is beneficial for heat or energy to be transferred. In warm weather, we wear light clothes to get rid of body heat. So in summer, we wear light clothes so that heat can be transferred from our body to the environment. Okay. Now let's talk about the gain and loss of heat. Heat or energy is transferred by conduction, convection, and radiation. We've already learned this in our previous unit 3 when we do heat transfer. We will look at 2 examples, namely geysers and solar powered heaters. Okay. I've skipped something. Let's start. Heat or energy is transferred by conduction, convection, and radiation. This transferred heat causes the warmer objects to lose heat and the cooler objects to gain heat. We will look at 2 examples, namely geysers and solar powered heaters. So when we look at gaining heat and loss of heat, we will look at 2 examples, which is geysers and solar powered heaters. Our first example there is a geyser. A geyser is our water heating system. Okay, so we use the electrical energy to power our geyser. Okay, and then here we start with this one. Geyser switches on and heats water by conduction. Okay, geyser is on and it heats the water. Water is hot enough and geyser switches off. Okay, and water cools because heat is transferred to the environment. Heat is lost. Okay, so we heat the geyser, and when the water is hot, we switch off the geyser. But now, through radiation, okay, we heat the geyser by conduction, and then through radiation, we lose the heat, right? And the water cools down. And this is the example of heat gain and heat loss. This part is heat gain by conduction. Here is heat lost by radiation. So the second example is the solar powered water heating system. They say it transfers heat energy from the sun to the water. The simplest system consists of a large container with water heated directly by the sun. There are, however, more complex systems. And what are the advantage of solar-powered water system? Heat is transferred through conduction. Okay, the element of the geyser transfer heat to the water. And what is the disadvantage of the solar-powered water heating system? Heat was lost through radiation. Okay, the heated water in the geyser gave off heat to the environment. Okay, now before we do the activity, let's continue to the next page. Okay, on page 259, now we look at the insulation material. They say, if we do not want the temperature of an object to change, we can use insulating material. Remember, because of radiation, we lose heat. So if we don't want that, we can use insulating material to keep the temperature constant. Artificial insulating material can be manufactured. Examples are plastic, fiberglass, and polystyrene. These are examples of insulating material. You need to know them: plastic, fiberglass, and polystyrene. Insulating material lowers the rate of heat transfer through conduction, convection, and radiation. The way the insulating material in a cooler box works can be explained with the following sketch. Okay, so let's see how insulating material works. Okay, insulating material is not only to keep the object hot or warm only. It can also be to keep the object cool, like in a cooler box. So this, we have the cold object. An insulating material prevents the heat from being transferred to the inside. So we don't want the heat to go to the cooler box. We want this to keep it cold. So we put the insulating material around. Okay, there are also a number of natural insulating materials like grass, clay, and wool. So we've got natural insulating material, which is grass, clay, and wool, and we've got another examples of insulating material, which is plastic, fiberglass, and polystyrene. Okay. Right, so please know the 6 examples of insulating material and know the definition of insulating material. Now on page 261, let's look at how can we save the electrical energy. Electrical energy is used continuously because heat energy is continuously lost or transferred to the surroundings. To save electrical energy, we have to make sure that as little as possible of the heat energy is lost. That is why we use insulating material. Let's read this paragraph again. Electrical energy is used continuously because heat energy is continuously lost or transferred to the surroundings. To save electrical energy, we have to make sure that as little as possible of heat energy is lost. That is why we use insulating material. And that example, shiny insulating material can be placed around a geyser like a blanket to minimize the loss of energy. The ceiling of a house or office is padded with insulating material on the inside. This prevents the heat from escaping the room in winter. It also prevents heat from entering the house from outside in summer. Not only does the ceiling of a house need to be insulated, the walls, the floor, and the windows can all be responsible for heat loss. When effective insulation is used in houses, it means less electricity is needed to heat or cool the house. Okay, so if you want to use less electricity to warm up your house or gas, then you must make sure that your house, you put insulation on the ceilings, on the walls, on the floor, and on the windows. In very cold regions, the hot water pipes are covered with insulating material to minimize the loss of heat energy. It also prevents the water from freezing, which causes the pipes to burst. Now, where do we use this insulation? Let's look at the everyday use of insulation. Insulation can be used in many different ways to prevent heat loss or gain. People put on warm clothes in winter and use blankets to keep their body heat in. This prevents heat being lost due to radiation or convection. In summer, we do not wear clothes made of wool so that our bodies can radiate heat and cool down. To keep cold drinks in summer, we keep them in well-insulated containers like cooler boxes. This prevents heat from the outside being transferred into the cold drink. Thermos flasks have insulating material to keep the contents cold or hot. And rubber covers for beer or cold drink cans are used by campers to keep drinks cold. This is how we use insulation in everyday life. Now let us look how insulation is used in indigenous technology, which means traditional tribes or traditional methods. Indigenous tribes have built traditional houses to withstand the hot South African summers. The following knowledge was used in the building of houses. Clay and grass roofs are used. These are excellent insulating material to keep houses cool. High roofs and shutters in front of windows to keep the house cool. Clay pots are used to keep beer and water cold. And ovens were frequently made from old ant heaps to bake bread. A cool room is a room in a house with ventilation holes between the bricks of a double wall. There is a coal between the double wall. Water is dripped into the coal. Wind makes the water evaporate, and the room cools down to keep food and meat cool. Okay. Houses are built to face north during winter. The sun then shines into the house to warm it up. Okay, so the houses are facing the north, and then during winter, the sun then shines into the house to warm it up. Houses can be built with double walls. The air between the double wall insulates the house to keep it warm. This is how indigenous tribes or the olden technology is using or was using insulation. And then how do we use insulation in nature? Birds puff their feathers to capture air between the feathers. In this way, birds are insulated against the cold weather. So please know the application of insulation and the example per application. Okay, first application is everyday life. You know the example there. Number 2, it's indigenous technology. You must know an example. Number 3, it is in nature. You must know the example. This brings us to the end of our lesson on insulation. Okay, so with it said, you can be in a position to do activity 8 and activity 9 and exercise number 4. And don't forget to study your summary and your mind map.